Dodgers and the Mets here in New York, as the Dodgers try to clinch another series win after the 6-0 shutout win in the opener last night. Chris Taylor will again lead it off for the Dodgers. Part of this lineup brought to you by Honda. Seager, Turner, Bellinger to follow. Then Jock Peterson in center hitting fifth. At second base, Logan Forsythe. Grandal does the catching. Puig is in right. And Rich Hill out of the 9 spot. Against a 27-year-old Seth Lugo, who's out of Shreveport, Louisiana, and didn't pitch this year until the beginning of June. He had a partially torn UCL, which normally means Tommy John, but he rehabbed it, had some plasma injections into it, and it's held up for him over these couple of months since he's come back.
Sure is, and he is a StatCast master. The spin rate on the curveball is way up there. That curveball, slider, changeup combination. The fastball he'll also cut. But the key for him here at home has been the off-speed stuff. He's been a much more effective pitcher in this ballpark this year than on the road. Over the time that he's been in the big leagues the last couple years, the league didn't pick up on his curveball last year. They hit 235 off it, but this year they're hitting 300, so they're starting to recognize the pattern.
This is a very unlikely big leaguer, guy that was drafted in the 34th round out of a Division III school in Louisiana, Centenary College of Louisiana. Yeah, once they selected him, wasn't any kind of a prospect, but then it was that spin rate you're talking about that forced his way onto the Mets' radars as he was climbing through the minors. He was toiling away at the AA level, and somebody pulled him aside and showed him a list of the highest spin rates in the organization. First time he had ever even heard of that word. And his name was right at the top of the list. That was kind of the point where he started gaining confidence. And made his debut last season. Chris Taylor climbs in, and off we go from New York with a tailing fastball for strike one. Closed captioning today brought to you by Wiener Schnitzel. Boy, did Taylor set the tone or what to open the series yesterday. Homering on the 9th pitch of the leadoff at-bat against Jacob deGrom. 1 ball and 1 strike. Two and 1.
Chris Taylor has absolutely been amazing this year, and such a surprise to everyone, probably except himself and maybe Chris Woodward and the front office.
It's a high pop fly on the infield. It's Ahmed Rosario, the rookie shortstop, for the first out. And it brings up Corey Seager, and we were talking about this during the pregame show, but he's easy to take for granted. And again, he's gotten it going in a big way. Back-to-back 3-hit games. He's reached in 8 of his last 10 plate appearances. Ball 1.
Corey is so consistent. The way he prepares for every game, the way he gets into the box, the mentality. Doesn't matter the handedness of the pitcher. A little more closed in the upper body against the righties, but lefties, he kind of opens that front shoulder to get a little better look at their release. It's about the only difference.
Drags one foul, and it's 2 and 1.
Hitting lefties this year at a higher clip than right-handers.
Lugo deals a 2-1, and Seager takes it by the hands for ball 3. Almost as many home runs against left-handers than against righties, and that is in significantly fewer at-bats. That is just foul. 3-2.
It seems like off righties he hits his home runs a little bit more to center field and left field, and against lefties it's the hanging breaking ball that he's a little out in front of but still on, and he pulls the ball to right field.
Just barely missed one last night off of the wall in left center. On this 3-2, he hits it foul again. 3 home runs last night, though, even though his didn't get out. 3 homers in game 1. And now in the 5 games against New York this year, all Dodger wins, they've hit 18 home runs. Another payoff, and he's walked. The Dodgers have their first base runner of the day.
One of the hardest things in facing this Dodger team is the fact that they chase you into the strike zone, and then you have to face the potent bats throwing the ball over the plate.
You see in yellow there, Justin Turner the last couple of weeks hasn't quite been himself. Battled the bronchitis. Just battled the fact that it's a long season. Everybody tends to go through stretches like this. On the first pitch he sees, it's foul, strike 1. Dodgers have won 11 of 12, 42-7. That's the best stretch over 49 games since 1912.
No one is chasing them, and they are chasing history.
See the cover of LA Times today?
I did.
Poses the question, best Dodger team ever? A little flair. Neil Walker, 2 gone. Our Coors Light Cold Hard Fact examines what we just talked about. 42-7 run. You got to go back to the New York Giants in 1912 to find the last time that a team did that. It's the 5th time that it's happened overall. 1912 when the Giants did it. 1906 the Cubs did it. 1885 the Cubs organization did it. They were the Chicago White Stockings at that point. And in 1884 the St. Louis Maroons, which was an organization that was around for 3 years, they had a 94-19 season. 1 on with 2 out, and Cody Bellinger fouls the first one back. It was in the Union Association, which was around for 1 year. And so I'm thinking, well, why are they included in this group of the best major league runs?
Yes.
Well, the Union Association was part of the major leagues for 1 year. 1884.
Let's just start at the 1900s.
I know. All these qualifiers. Nothing in 2. Well, in that case, 1 of 3 teams to have a 42-7 run.
Well, it takes a Dodger team like this to bring those teams back to memory, and I'm not sure they were in anybody's memory that's still alive.
I had to Google them.
Okay.
The 0-2. Bellinger pops this one up. Rivero has a play on it, and the inning is over. Dodgers get a 1-out base runner, but nothing to show for it. Rich Hill takes it in a scoreless game after this. Mets with the Honda starting lineup. Michael Conforto, the All-Star, leads it off. Then it's Cabrera. Yoenis Cespedes hits third. Wilmer Flores makes his first start of the weekend with Curtis Granderson hitting fifth. Neil Walker at second. Ahmed Rosario in his fifth game in the majors, and Rene Rivera doing the catching for Seth Lugo. Rich Hill over his last 7 games has a 1.88 ERA. Part of that stretch helped him earn National League Pitcher of the Month in July.
I kidded him yesterday that I'm going to get him a hat embroidered Podum Pitcher of the Month.
Nice.
He said, no, don't do that. That his fastball really has improved. And I think it's improved specifically in relationship to the curveball. The batting average against the fastball in July dropped 130 points compared to the other pitches in the other months. And so he really is locating it well.
Top of the zone for strike one on Conforto. We talked about Lugo being a spin rate darling. Hill is one as well. But it's not just Hill's curveball, though that ranks highly. His fastball is also one of the highest spin rates. That ball is punished. Right center field, and Conforto starts the day with a home run. It's the same way Rich Hill's start against the Mets began at Dodger Stadium in late June. Gave up a leadoff home run to Curtis Granderson in that game.
Howdy, Pitchcast has it as center cut. Not the best location, getting it up with an 0-1 fastball. The first pitch of the game, just kind of a basic solid strike. And that's pretty much what he came back with for the second pitch.
22nd of the season for the young Mets All-Star. An early 1-0 hole for the Dodgers. Asdrubal Cabrera. Ball one. That start against the Mets in June also worth mentioning, because that's the beginning of this stretch where Rich Hill's been a different guy. Gave up that leadoff homer, but settled in. Has been dominant since. Bellinger near the dugout, runs out of room.
That stretch you're talking about, prior to that, he was searching. And he really still continued to search in that outing, but started to find some things that were working for him, a different rhythm. Started to look for this new abbreviated windup that he's using. Received some information from the front office about how effective he was with runners in scoring position and from the stretch.
Routine to center. Jock Peterson. Wow.
I mean, he has really been to the bottom of the barrel and then to get to the top of the heap. Beginning of the year with the blisters, then the mechanical issues and the struggles through both of those, and then learning that maybe the abbreviated windup might work, and then continuing to go out there and just try and build his execution, which then built his confidence.
Started from the bottom, now he's here, as the great philosopher Drake said.
Okay. I thought you were going to go somewhere into the New York, New York song.
No.
Drake.
Yeah. Cespedes. Strike one. Well, Cespedes, fairly small sample size, but has struck out at all 3 times that he's faced Rich Hill. On this 0-1, he takes ball one. Mets have dropped 7 of 9. That's after a run where they won 6 of 7. It's been that kind of year for Terry Collins and the Mets. Up and down and up and down. And I think that's probably more maddening than just being bad. 1-2.
It seems at times then it could be a concentration issue. Is it an intensity issue as far as effort? Cespedes yesterday looked like he was very nonchalant on a ball down the left field line, but then I had forgotten that he is nursing a hamstring as he's playing.
Has been all year. 2-2.
So when it dropped in the field of play, just foul, and he wasn't anywhere near it, it seemed like that he might have an excuse there of not giving an effort on that ball, because it would have been very tough play.
Drags a bouncer to third. There's Justin Turner. 2 gone.
Justin Turner's glove has not gone into a slump, that is for sure, and his intensity and preparation.
Wilmer Flores. His walk-up song is the Friends theme song.
I go both flaps down and you got one flap up, so you get to hear those walk-up songs.
Headset flaps he's talking.
Exactly. Thank
Strike
you.
one. Curve is in there, and it's 0-2. Driven to deep center. Peterson to the warning track. Leaps. Gone. A pair of solo shots in the first inning against Rich Hill, and the Mets lead at 2-0.
Rich gets away with a lot of high fastballs. Actually likes to pitch up in the strike zone. And this is another one that looks like he wants to go down, but ends up right down the middle in the inner half. Fastball location was so good in July, but here in this start so far, he's missed twice.
And that one slips out of his hand. Ball one on Granderson, who we mentioned took him deep in the start in June at Dodger Stadium to start that game. That ball's hit well. Right center field. Puig is back. It is gone. The Mets teeing off on Hill. It's 3-0.
A third fastball up and a third home run. Rich Hill gets a lot of fastballs up, swung and missed that, but that's after the curveball has been established. Here the Mets jumping on the fastball early. No recollection of his curveball because they really haven't seen it.
Neil Walker is strike one. This is a lineup that can punish mistakes. Third in the National League in home runs this year. In fact, ahead of the Dodgers in home runs coming into the series. 0-2. One and two.
The first solo shot was nothing for a starting pitcher, but the second goes, okay, let's go, lock in. And the third, that kind of sets you on your heels.
Curveball, flex into short center. That's a single for Neil Walker. Especially when things have been going so well, it's got to be like, what's going on?
A little bit of a shock to your system. And now you're thinking about just get out of this inning. The pitch count is not in trouble at all. Get out of this inning and let's try and go 6 or 7. Give my team a chance to come back. Post a whole bunch of zeros.
The rookie Rosario takes a ball. Has a hit in all 4 games he's played in the majors. 2 of them triples. Considered one of the top 10 prospects in baseball. promoted earlier this week. 1-1. One and two.
Like Dodger Stadium plays during the day. The ball is carrying much better here today than it did last night. Wind is blowing out a little bit through those two openings around the big scoreboard in center field. Hitters should see the ball real well today until some of the shadows might come in an hour or so.
Close play there, but Walker's in. It's a nice ballpark coming here.
I can tell you it's much better than Shea. Shea had the slowest elevator in the big leagues and some of the worst smells at times.
Zara really battling Hill. 1 ball and 2 strikes still.
This is something that the Met fans can be really proud of. It's a lot of fun. The facility is pristine. Great amenities underneath for the players in both locker rooms and for the fans.
Walker at first with 2 gone, and Hill to the plate with another 1-2. Got him swinging with a fastball. And put an end to a nightmarish first inning for him. That's it. 3 home runs, and it will be an uphill climb today. For the Mets against Rich Hill in the first inning. Conforto started it, and Flores and Granderson. 28 home runs between the teams in the 5+ games this year in the series. Seth Lugo to Jock Peterson opening the second. with a breaking pitch for a strike. It's a 3-run deficit, but the Dodgers in the 5 games against New York this year have averaged 7 runs. 0-2. Seth Lugo, 27-year-old, a lot of people never thought would make it to this stage. One and two. Told you that he played at Centenary College of Louisiana. Their mascot, the Gentleman. And he was not good there. He had a 5.31 ERA. Starts the second with a strikeout of Peterson, his first.
Jock hangs in the box and disagrees with this call. Boy, it is right on the edge, but it is a strike.
Well, Peterson the first out of the inning, and up comes Logan Forsythe. Had yesterday off, starting today at second. Lugo said that he entered draft day just hopeful somebody might take a chance on it. And if not, he planned to finish his degree, which was in geology, and become a landman. 1-1. I had to look that up. I had no idea. Landman. Apparently it's somebody that works for oil companies.
More of a prospector.
1-2. So a couple of weeks before the draft, you'd flash some stuff in a game where a Mets scout happened to be there. They invited him to a tryout with about a dozen different pitchers in the Southeast, and he said he had the best bullpen of his entire life. Outside 2-2. So he thought if there was going to be a chance to get drafted, it would be for the Mets. And the scout that was there even admitted, yeah, that did it. That one bullpen session, by far the best we'd seen it. And boy, are they glad they took him. Full count.
What he shows now, the movement on the fastball looks really good. The breaking ball, when it's down, has really good finish.
Here he comes with a payoff, and Forsythe jams one down the right field line. Granderson makes the catch.
Curtis Granderson makes it into the Carl's cam right here. Awkwardly tracks this ball, trying to get a read on it. And finally, one last good step as the spin takes it away from him, but the outreach glove captures it.
Bases empty, 2 gone, and Grandal on the first pitch sends it skyward on the infield. Who wants it? Rosario. Dodgers down an order in the second to the bottom half in a 3-0 game. Dodgers baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the all-new 2017 Chrysler Pacifica, the new benchmark of minivans. And by Carl's Jr., the charbroiled chicken sandwiches with no antibiotics ever, only at Carl's Jr. Rich Hill trying to settle in, allowing those 3 home runs in the first inning. 8-9-1 for New York here in the second. Rene Rivera attacking, strike 1.
Mets theory looks like they don't want Rich Hill to get to his curveball. First straight one they see, they are trying to hit.
So when you're Rich Hill, after an inning like that to start the day, you've got your game plan, you go in and then it goes poorly. When you go back into the dugout, what's the thought process when you're sitting there ready to go again?
I'm trying to reboot the computer. I'm going to start over and just kind of erase the 3 runs from my mind and just say, you know what, there is so much time. And it's time that only starting pitchers have. Relievers can't have an inning like that and all of a sudden recover. That is a bad outing, and sometimes they feel like they've been moved down the totem pole. But a starter, he just feels like he can go back out there and start over.
Rivera with a base hit to center. Already 5 Mets hits against Hill.
3 that are loud and 2 that are soft. The jam shot to center.
Brings up Lugo in a sacrifice situation. At his first career home run a few weeks ago, though. Gave him the silent treatment.
Aggressive bunt defense coming here. And now a little conversation. If they're going to charge like that, you got permission to pull the bat back and swat at it.
Behind 0-2.
So much has changed in baseball since I left the game as a player. And one of the main things is right here in this situation that throwing breaking balls to people that are trying to bunt is okay. Used to be just throw the high fastball.
Lays this one down, but firmly, and Bellinger throws to second off of Seager's glove, but he puts the tag down. And immediately Rivera points into the dugout and says, take a look.
James Hoy out there with the out call.
He looks pretty confident here. It says safe.
And that was a very quick call to go to the headset, so probably very decisive information on reversing this call as we take a look. Bellinger gets it to Seager off the glove. I don't understand how he misses that, but he will tell us later, I'm sure. Looked like it maybe hit him in the palm of the glove and just rolled right up. And he is safe. Hoy's observation, the glove disappears, but it's not tagging Rivera. I think they're going to see that on the replay. Umpire's on the left part of your screen, so he sees the glove heading towards the body, but it's not there yet. And the hand gets in prior to the tag.
It was odd. It was as if Seager didn't see it well out of Bellinger's hand.
Yeah, it could have been. You're right. Maybe it got mixed into a jersey and the seats. Something white. Maybe he was going for a very quick exchange and never really caught the ball. Definitely had a shot at a double play.
So the Mets with a chance at a big inning now.
I think Lugo will get a fielder's choice and Seager will get an error.
Back to the top of the order. Michael Conforto started the scoring with a home run. Extending his hitting streak to a career best 9 games. Curve for a strike.
First inning, he didn't see a curveball. He saw a fastball on his second pitch. He powdered it out of here. That wasn't the only one that inning. There were 3 of those.
Another curve, 0-2. Might not see one again.
That's true. At least not in that section of the plate.
Well, this is where he's been able to crack down usually. Runners in scoring position average against, 3rd best in baseball. Through 3 consecutive curves, Conforto is waiting on this one, and it's foul.
If you looked up hanging curveball, this picture would be there right in the dictionary. Was just laying up there by the shoulders.
Two on, nobody out. 0-2 again. Dropped down and missed outside. See that much less frequently than we did in his 2 months with the team last year.
His success dropping down even had Clayton Kershaw experimenting with dropping down last year.
Count evens.
If Conforto is convinced that Hill's trying to get him out with a breaking ball, throw him the breaking ball, but just put it in a hard place to hit.
Another hanger. Got away with it.
And it does give you confidence when you make 2 mistakes and the hitter's still up there and he still doesn't seem to be on it. So you understand in the back of your mind, if you can execute a good one, you should be able to get him out. Overloaded defense on the right side. The breaking ball, if he tops it, could turn into a double play.
Dropped down and finished him off this time.
You know, the best number 2 of the day right there. He really spun that ball to the outside part of the plate from the far reaches of the first base side all the way over to the third base side of the plate.
For a while during Rich Hill's career, that's who he was. Exclusively a sidearm pitcher. Mostly out of the bullpen as he tried to come back from injuries and bounce from organization to organization. Had some time here in New York, but with the New York Yankees. And actually, kind of his resurgent year came in New York. 2014, his first big league games of the year came with the Angels. He pitched in 2 games for them, didn't record an out. So the Angels released him, and the Yankees signed him. It's inside on Cabrera. He was back home in Massachusetts right after he'd been released and was throwing a ball off a brick wall of a building, just trying to keep his arm fresh. 2 days later, he was in Yankee Stadium facing Big Papi with a game on the line. Oh, and inside 2-0.
Yasmani Grandal with a nice block there. Another thing that they've adjusted is Yasmani is not moving behind the plate until Rich starts to deliver the ball. The shadow right now is really easy to see if you're a hitter in your peripheral vision. Yasmani staying still and then moving. Something I always looked at, not only in day games. Sometimes you can have a day game where the shadows actually cast across the plate from your catcher. And You also hope that the umpires don't move.
Fly ball to center. Jock Peterson shading his eyes. He's got it, 2 out. Why does it matter if the umpires move?
Some umpires, when they understand where the target's going, will actually go with the catcher, and it might be their shadow because they're taller than the catcher. It might be their shadow that the hitter picks up on. If your catcher's just kind of leaning, or maybe he starts on the inside corner when he gives the signs and he says, you know, I know I'm going fastball in, so I'll set myself up on the inside part, then the umpire goes with him. Some umpires move with the catcher, some umpires stay in the same exact place.
2 on, 2 out. Yoenis Cespedes, the hitter. He'll try to get out of trouble here in the second. A fastball, pop foul.
You see Yasmani being still. Behind home plate, Jeff Kellogg just kind of scoots forward. And some umpires will kind of lean in next to the catcher's mask on one side or the other.
Grounded foul. Not quite to the point yet, right, where the shadows will affect how you see the ball to the pitcher's hand. Too late to discern that change.
Yeah, and the light between home plate and the pitcher's mound right now is a little bit, you know, it's kind of sporadic. So I don't think it's really a decisive thing where your pupils can't adjust. If it was a solid shadow, it would be starting to give them problems.
Which will happen eventually.
And that could be important to the Dodger offense to try and get those runs back early before that shadow becomes an issue in the middle part of the game.
Cespedes barely stays alive. Right now you have the shadows from the lights, but it's when the grandstand shadows start to cross that you can have an effect. It's a nice day. They're calling for rain. There's a little bit this morning. Hill strikes out Cespedes and the inning is over. First 2 reached, but no damage done. We're through at 2 in a 3-0 game.
Top of the third inning, Dodgers down 3-0 as Yasiel Puig is set to lead off against Seth Lugo. And Yasiel Puig, guys, has really been a different guy since the end of May. Time now for the Land Rover Performance Spotlight. You can see what he's been able to do since that time. A batting average of almost 300. 12 of his career-high 20 home runs have come since that date. He's driven in 28, and you can see what the slug percentage is there. He's doing it on the field. He's doing it off the field. Yasiel Puig last night after the game made his way to Secaucus, New Jersey, spent some time at MLB Network, was live on MLB Tonight, taped a segment on Quick Pitch. Dave Roberts said he loves that he's doing those types of things in the road cities. He said there's a lot of worse things our players could be doing in New York.
Yeah, that is for sure. Some trouble to get into in a city like this, but Puig found his way to MLB Network studios. Did a great job, too. A new career high with the 20 home runs. Here he is leading off the third and a 1-1 count. Two and one. He speaks much better English than he gives himself credit for.
He sure does. He's one of the warmest and friendliest people you'll ever be around. And I think more and more people are realizing that as he has really kind of cleaned up some of the things socially and being on time and all the different things culturally that he needed to rearrange.
Grounds out to Rosario for the first out of the third.
Very sensitive too. That's why you see that little sulk and pout right there in the midst of a big league field on camera. He's not going to hide his emotions very often.
The base is empty and one out. Here's Hill. Strike one, and you know he's warm, he's friendly, but he's still a little obnoxious at times. He's still himself.
Yeah.
But when you're hitting 20 home runs, you're showing up on time. More importantly, you're playing great defense. That obnoxious when you're struggling becomes playful when you're playing well.
Exactly. It's personality.
Uh-huh.
Obnoxious becomes exuberance.
Right. That's a great way to put it. Lugo strikes out Hill, 2 out. Let's see if the Dodgers have any more success the second time through the order. Only one base runner the first trip through on a Seager walk. Taylor hitting .416 in the second half. The only National League player that has a higher slugging than Chris Taylor since the All-Star break is Nolan Arenado.
You put an asterisk when he plays in Colorado with those stats.
Right. First pitch off speed. Another than 2. His mom was coming up from Virginia for this weekend. Virginia Beach native Chris Taylor. Former Virginia Cavalier. Even though he's from a family full of Hokies. Lugo misses badly. It's inside, ball 1. Two and 2.
Very good miss for a 1-2 breaking ball. He and Rivera had a trouble getting on the same page, but a well executed pitch even with the delay.
Breaking ball dug out center field, and Conforto onto the warning track to catch it. Dodgers still looking for their first hit against Seth Lugo through 3. Runs for New York. When we look back at him on the Volkswagen replay, the two guys coming up to start this inning, Flores and Granderson, went back to back.
Flores 12, Granderson's 15. Both fastballs, 3 solo shots, as you said, and these two with the back-to-back, those were the ones that really hurt in the first against Hill.
Well, Flores takes a strike. It is, in fact, the Friends theme song that he walks up to. Friends is his favorite show, and he credits Friends with helping him learn English. They're coming over from Venezuela. Curve is a strike, and it's 0-2. He's watched every episode. It's the only show he likes to watch. He said he can't stop watching it.
He's a friendaholic.
Is that what they call them?
I don't know. Look up in the Urban Dictionary.
Hey, you're learning. On 3 pitches, he's the first out.
Urban Dictionary's been in my life for about 10 years.
Oh, has it?
Oh, yeah.
I had a couple people tweet at me and say, there's no way Oral knows what Urban Dictionary is.
Yeah.
They were wrong.
Well, I learned about it the ugly way.
Which is what?
We'll get into it later.
Oh.
Just people trying to tell you hey, you got to look this up, see what it means. Like, I'll just go to I'll use the regular one.
Hill has 4 Ks now. And Curtis Granderson, the hitter. Ball 1. These guys were teammates on the Yankees in 2011. Breaking ball, strike, and it's 1-1. I beg your pardon. Hill was with the Yankees 3 years after that, so they missed each other by 1 year. Granderson's last year with the Yankees was 13. Sharp curve, 1-2. 36 years old now, 14th year in the majors, first with the Tigers, then the Yankees. And now in his 4th year with the Mets, final year of his contract. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Full count.
Mets' current hitting coach, Kevin Long, was the one that really fixed Curtis Granderson after he left Detroit. Took him from open to closed. Took the weight to the inside of his back leg instead of overloading to the back of that leg.
No swing, 1-out walk.
Moved his hands from out away from his body to in behind his ear a little bit, and really helped him an awful lot.
And then reaped the benefits when they both moved to the Mets. Now the other side of that is Kevin Long is also the one that helped Daniel Murphy become Daniel Murphy. And now he's got to watch Murphy 19 times a year terrorize him in a Nationals uniform.
Kevin will talk about load, connectivity of the swing, and balance. I remember talking to him an awful lot about hitting. He used to come through Boston and New York an awful lot when I worked for ESPN, and Kevin was one of the guys I used to always pick his brain. And every hitter he works with is different, but I just asked him what are the main subjects that you're looking for, and he told me load, connectivity, and balance. That's where he starts.
Walker pops it foul, 0-2. One and two. And so much of what coaches do at the major league level is the mental side too, being like a psychologist for the hitters.
Yeah, having a great bedside manner. Really leaving mechanics alone sometimes completely and just clearing a guy's mind before he gets up there into the on deck circle and then the batter's box. That's a day in and day out process with these guys, and we watch Turner Ward go through that all the time with his guys. Turner seems to always have a hitter or two around him talking about something. Can you imagine being in a profession? It'd be almost like sales, a cold call salesman, where 30% of the time, if you're right, you're doing really, really well. I mean, that's a lot of disappointment to deal with.
Hill's got him picked off. Forsythe drops the tag, 2 out.
Looked like a predetermined play. Granderson looked like he was going on first move. Hill looked like for sure I'm going to take it over there. And Bellinger made the best part of the play. The throw a little bit up the line made him stretch a little bit, but then throwing it accurately right over Granderson's head. Easy tag for Forsythe.
And a full count now on Walker. Seems like none of them are truly easy anymore, though, on tags, right? Because
yeah, exactly.
Ball beating you doesn't.
There's no
do the
phantom
trick
tag anymore.
Right.
There's no just get the glove down by the bag, beat the runner to that area, and he's out. No, that's not it.
Pop fly behind third. Turner says that he's got it, and he does. And another scoreless inning for Rich Hill. So he's settled in. Let's see if the Dodger offense can do the same.
is your #1 mobile app for live Dodger baseball. Stay connected with fully customizable experiences. Get Dodger home screens, icons, and app features, as well as game day, live game video highlights, radio broadcasts, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat today.
There's the Garden down there. Ball one on Corey Seager, world's most famous arena. You ever go to a game in there?
Oh, yeah.
Grand stage.
Take the train out of there.
Uh-huh.
I was a little disappointed when the Cavs dropped us off and Dana and I had to drag our bags down the stairs, and so many people are swamping around her and she's in heels. It's like, oh, what did you bring me to? I said, oh, it'll be fun. We'll take the train. It'll teach you for packing so heavy. It's quite a place.
Seth Lugo to Seager with a 2-1. Count evens up. Dodgers still looking for their first hit against Lugo. Peterson or Seager the only base runner. He walked his first time and has now reached in 9 of his last 11 trips up. Outside corner, strike 3.
Now seeing Lugo for 3 1/3. He starts to remind me of Rick Aguilera back in the mid-'80s. Pitched for the Mets, that Met uniform. I started to look at that, and then the mechanics and the velocity with the movement and the two-seamer and the curveball. Aguilera was a very successful Met for a while.
Justin Turner takes a strike. Well, not only was it beating the odds to get drafted for Lugo, even going to the Centenary College of Louisiana, that was kind of beating the odds. Wasn't heavily recruited. In fact, the first time the head coach there watched him when he was a high school senior, said that he was throwing barely 80 with, in his words, the worst mechanics he had ever seen. So the coach gets up and leaves midway through the game, unimpressed. Lugo's father follows him into the parking lot and begs him to take another look. And he said, okay, we will. Still wasn't that impressed, but decided to give him a chance. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Turner. And I mentioned it, but he wasn't good once he got there. 4 years in Division III and a .531 ERA. Drafted in 2011 as a nobody. His debut last year. Turner cracks it softly to short. That's Rosario. That's out number 2. Now, not only did he debut last year, but he was a big part of the Mets' push into the wild card game. Had a sub-3 ERA, split between the pen and the rotation. And his momentum slowed some by that partially torn elbow during the World Baseball Classic this year, pitching for Puerto Rico. His first one to Cody Bellinger is taken away. Ball 2. Two on 1. Bellinger trying to snap an 0 for 11. Able to lay off and into a hitter's count at 3-1. Full count.
That ball chasing Cody. Little cutter inside. Started maybe slightly on the plate, but just ran in towards his hips. Looked like the only thing he could do with it was pull it foul.
Now the 3-2. Bellinger drives it to the opposite field. Cespedes is there. And the Dodgers without a hit against Seth Lugo through 4 innings. Dodgers baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Cricket Wireless. Cricket, something to smile about. Back in New York, 3 solo home runs for the Mets in the first inning against Rich Hill. Dodgers without a hit through 4 against Seth Lugo. Bottom of the Mets order, Ahmed Rosario. 21-year-old rookie cuts through a fastball. It's 0-1. Signed when he was 16 out of the Dominican Republic. Largest bonus for an international player in Mets history. Now that in 2. And debuting in the majors 5 years after they signed him. He's hitting .328 in AAA and admitted that he had gotten a little bit bored. Fouls off a curve.
It must be nice to be good enough to get bored at a level. I never spent 4.5 years in the minors. I was never bored. I was always pushing to hope I could get better. Trying to understand maybe I'm good enough.
Checks on his counterpart, Corey Seager. 1 out. Rivera's single in the second, the last hit against Hill. After he gave up 4 hits in the first inning, 3 of them leaving the yard. Conforto, Flores, and Granderson. Ball 1. Strike one. One and two.
Rich Hill can stay locked in. The most important number in this game is going to be 57. That's the number of pitches that Seth Lugo has at this point. He's gone a high of 105 this year, but if he continues to shut the Dodgers down, you want to build that pitch count, get a few runs, and get into that very porous Mets bullpen. Rich doing his job right now after getting off to the rough start. Dodger offense looking to wake up.
Chance with a win today to top that stretch in 2013 that it looked like was untouchable, where they went 42-8. It would be 43-7 over this 50-game stretch if they could come from behind. That's the 5th K for Rich Hill.
Join us August 11th when the Dodgers play host to the Padres beginning at 7:10. Stay after the game to enjoy Friday night fireworks presented by Denny's. The Pyro Mix will be celebrating Hot August nights with a Neil Diamond music mix. For tickets, go to Dodgers.com/promotions.
Is that your guy, Neil Diamond?
Where it began.
All right.
I can't begin to know it.
Go on.
And I'm not gonna go on.
You got a pretty good singing voice.
Easy. Let's watch the game.
Do you though, or have you?
I've karaoke'd a few places.
No big deal.
No big deal. On the internet.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was more. That was rapping. You were dropping verses.
One shot you got. Take a chance to blow. It's opportunity. Whoa, it's once in a lifetime.
Oh
Do it
my
up.
God! You just undermined all the work you did.
I did.
Hill with another strikeout is second of the inning and his 6th total tonight. Thank God we go to commercial. Dodgers baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. Save big on a reliable new 2017 Camry, now at Toyota's National Clearance Event. Back in New York, such a great city. Dodgers get to come here at least once a year. Every few years come play the Yankees as well as they did last season. They've beaten the Mets the first 5 times they've faced them this year, but in a 3-0 hole as we go to the 5th. And Seth Lugo, 4 innings without a hit allowed, works against Jock Peterson with strike 1. Dribbled in front of the plate. Rivera's got it. 1 gone.
We've said that Lugo is a StatCast darling because of spin rate. If you go old school scouts would say he has a good hand, meaning the delivery's there now, the velocity's there, but he has a good hand. He can really spin the ball. Good feel for it. Old school broadcasting would say he's spinning a beauty.
First started really spinning the ball playing wiffle ball in his backyard. Logan Forsythe watches a spinner for a strike. Neighborhood kids used to gather around him as he would throw and just watch the crazy things he could make the ball do. Follows the curve with a fastball, and it's 0-2.
Probably do it with both. The wiffle ball that has the holes on the one side where you position the holes and that'll make the ball break. You can spin that a little bit more, but then the full wiffle ball that actually was just the plastic sphere. When you can spin those, they can do some crazy things. And I like the real skinny yellow bats when you play wiffle ball, not the big blue honker.
Orange.
No, that's
Big
the
orange
offensive
one.
game with the big one. The pitcher's game is the skinny one, like stickball.
Struck him out.
It's a mistake. Wanted to go low and away, but you see the spin and how it just makes that ball just move. Hard to track.
Grandal 1 for 12 on this trip. Take strike 1. Strikeouts in 7 of those 12 at-bats. Most important thing, though, for the catcher, obviously the way that he handles the pitcher. He did a good job with Yu Darvish last night. Darvish really trusting what Grandal was putting down. Change up, 2-1.
Now that trust and rhythm between a pitcher and a catcher is huge, and especially changing teams. And Yasmani did a great job, and really Yu with the way he completely trusted him. There was really no shaking at all.
Grandal down the right field line. It is a fair ball, and the first Dodger hit of the game is a 2-out double from Yasmani Grandal. And Lugo's taken the no-hitter deep enough where he gets applause when he gives up his first.
New York fans very nimble with understanding what's going on in the game and reacting to it. And Yasmani Grandal stays right on a changeup there to hit that ball down the right field line.
They'll put Puig on and bring Rich Hill up. I don't know about for you, but for me, seeing how honest Yu Darvish has been in his first week with the Dodgers through the media, the way that he's feeling, what his emotions are with the trade and last night, it's been really awesome.
It has. Another humble star joining this team. It's not going to upset the culture at all. There's really nobody on this Dodger team chasing history that seeks the spotlight.
Sorry. Two on and two out. Strike two. Darvish said last night that he admitted that he was nervous because there's so many good pitchers on this staff. He didn't want to be one to pitch poorly and bring the staff down. Not many major leaguers will admit to feeling that. Hill strikes out and the inning is over. Dodgers get their first hit against Lugo. Now they look for their first run as this thing rolls on at the halfway point.
Of the fifth inning, a quick update for you on Adrian Gonzalez, the veteran first baseman. Just went out on a rehab assignment, 1 for 3 in one rehab game so far this year. Talked to Dave Roberts earlier this morning about what it means when Adrian comes back, which is probably going to be at the end of the month. And he said, you know, we have certainly had conversations, but I haven't had the sit-down conversation with him face-to-face about the unlikely possibility that he'll play every single day at first base. He said, you're not supposed to lose your job, obviously, to an injury, but the way Cody Bellinger has been handling first base, he sees it more as an opportunity for Adrian to get the start every once in a while. And of course, Cody can play the outfield, he said, but he needs to keep Chris Taylor's bat in there as well, guys.
Okay, Alana, Michael Conforto, top of the Mets order, taking ball one from Hill. As we've discussed, the good thing about needing to keep Chris Taylor's bat in the lineup is that he can play several different spots. 1-1.
There's an awful lot of positions out there on the field that the Dodgers can toggle in and out. I don't think you'll see much happen at third with Justin Turner or Corey Seager at short. Behind the plate with Yasmani and Austin Barnes. But first base, second base, center field, left field, I think are the places where they can mix and match, depending on who's hot, who's not, who needs to be rested, who needs an opportunity to get their swing in order for the playoffs and the roster. I think Yasiel Puig will most of the time be in right field. Corey Seager at short, Justin Turner at third. And I think you'll mostly see Taylor and Bellinger's bat in there, but maybe the positions will change.
It's one of the nice things about a 14-game lead. You can afford to toggle, maybe take a little risk, not knowing for sure if it's your best lineup. Find out. Hill drops down to strike out Conforto. Second time that he's done that today, and very quietly he's racked up 7 Ks.
Well, really, the 3 solo shots are all fastballs early, trying to establish that he would use the fastball, and And in doing that, the Mets kind of anticipated it and attacked it. And that put him behind the 8 ball. But since he has started to really predominantly use his base pitch, which is his breaking ball, he has shut them down.
Cabrera hacks the first one foul.
Really the first dose of poor visibility for the hitters right now. As much as this shadow is going to take over, this is a hard one. Pitcher in the light, you're in the darkness. Your pupils have to adjust from the release point of something bright to then losing the light.
One and two.
The light sure makes for a pretty view, but it doesn't make for fun hitting.
Did you recognize it as a pitcher that you'd reached the point of the night where you maybe had a bit of an advantage?
Sometimes pitch quicker because you know it's moving and you want to use it.
Want to put your hand out, stop the shadow, right? When it hits the perfect spot.
Exactly. Especially when you're ahead and you're on the Mets side right now, 3-0. You almost like rain is coming. It's like the shadow is leaving.
You can tell how tough that is to see. Cabrera grounds it softly to Forsythe. 2 out.
Well, think about your eye as a camera and how the camera right there has a tough time adjusting.
Well, Rich Hill, since allowing the 3 home runs in the first inning, has given up just 1 hit over the last 3 2/3. Cespedes 0 for 5 against Hill with 4 Ks. 31-year-old from Cuba. Defected during the summer of 2011. And his journey was a 23-hour trip on a speedboat that landed him in the Dominican Republic. The reason that he went to the Dominican was to be a free agent. You don't want to go straight to the United States where you become subject to the draft. Can't sign for as much money. Off of Hill. Randolph finds it but has no play. And Hill less than gracefully goes down. So a 2-out base runner for the Mets.
This ball is well struck in 2 ways. Once from the bat, and then Rich Hill off his left leg, and Rich then rolls over because he doesn't want to get hit by the possible throw. Hard to see for the hitter, but once he hits it, boy, hard to see for Rich Hill to get a glove on that. Looked like it hit him right in the shin. '87 pitches, 2 outs. A little bit of adrenaline after you get hit. Dave Roberts will let him test it, and knowing Rich Hill say, "I'm fine."
Yep.
This will probably be his last inning, I would think, at 87. No sense taking him over 100, and no sense letting that thing swell up and then affect his mechanics and then possibly hurting or irritating something in his arm.
So a 2-out chance for Wilmer Flores, who has a home run, one of the 3 for the Mets. Cranks the first one foul. Back in April, he thought that he had a mosquito bite on his knee, but it kept getting bigger. And he looked down one morning, woke up, and it was swollen up huge. And Decided he better go get it checked out. It was a staph infection. He spent 4 days in the hospital. Almost needed surgery, it was so bad. So missed a couple of weeks from the Mets and has had a good year when he's been healthy. One and two.
How long did you say he missed?
2 weeks.
Wow. Well, he didn't have to go on like IV antibiotics or anything, I wonder. Because
I'm sure there was some of that, but
yeah, I had a staph infection.
Did you?
I was on IV antibiotics, and they come out like every week to check your white blood cell count to make sure they get it down. And once they get it down to the right area, then they make you stay on it another 3 or 4 days.
Strikes out swinging, and the inning is over. 3-0 game as we move along to the 6th, and the offense tries to get it cranked up. Unlimited baseball break brought to you by T-Mobile. Chase Utley a home run last night in that 6-0 win. His 39th against the Mets in his career, which is the most of any active player. So it's not just the broken leg of Ruben Tejada a couple of years in the postseason. It's the fact that he has terrorized these Mets for much of his career. A lot of that in Philadelphia in the same division. That's the reason why you hear the boos every time he comes up. Top of the order for the Dodgers against Seth Lugo. Only one hit today. Grandal double. Ball and a strike. Two and one. Taylor unloads on a ball to left center field. Forget about it. Chris Taylor out of his mind right now. Second day in a row with a home run. 15th of the season. And the Dodger offense wakes up here in the 6th.
All the scoring in this game, solo shots. Chris Taylor had one yesterday in his first at bat. Here in his third at bat, picks on a little slider. Hits it approximately to the same place he hit one yesterday. Yesterday's was more of a line drive. This is more of an arching, beautiful fly ball.
And now Seager. It's at foul, strike one. I said second day in a row. It's actually the third day in a row. He had the 3-run homer to dead center in Atlanta. What a season. Taylor with a jam shot. Short center. Conforto's got it. And Seager the first out of the inning. The Dodgers finally get to Lugo with a home run from Chris Taylor to start the 6th inning. And with the bases empty and one out, here's Justin Turner. It's Brandon Morrow getting ready.
Justin looking to have his bat wake up.
Takes ball one.
One of the things you marvel about with Justin Turner is his rhythm, and his poise in the batter's box. You can never tell when he's hot or when he's cold.
Little floater that'll sink into left center for a base hit. First hit since the first game of this trip for Turner. The Dodgers get the tying run to the plate in the form of Cody Bellinger.
It might not feel like a pressure situation, but Lugo right now knows all that his good work for the day is in the balance because of the guy in the batter's box.
He's trying to snap an 0 for 12. Ball one.
Some people are cold and some people are just due.
The Mets bullpen, which has not been good, starts to get live. The 1-0 in the dirt, and the throw back down to first, and Turner in there safely. So 2 balls and no strikes on Cody Bellinger, who's hammered 30 home runs this year. 5 shy of a Dodger rookie record. Still with a couple of months to play. The 2-0. Bellinger hits a high fly ball to right. Granderson to the warning track. This game is tied. It never gets old.
It's down there, and it's a Morongo slow-mo cam, and he digs it out. Collapses the backside, the uppercut that's so picturesque when you hit the ball solid. The launch angle is majestic.
31st of the year, and in the blink of an eye, the Dodgers have tied it. Peterson slaps it foul. One and one. Well, you're right, though. It's amazing how quickly a day can swing. Lugo had a no-hitter with 1 out in the 5th inning. And 2 loud swings later from a couple of roommates, and his day is ruined.
Just downloading the swing and the feeling and what pitch it was, and wow, we're back in this game. those conversations in the dugout after something positive are just off the charts. It just continues to keep your adrenaline flowing.
Paul Sewall, the Mets reliever.
It's fun to see big leaguers marvel at themselves and others, you know, to pull for each other and get a kick out of each other's accomplishments. This team has that for sure. There is no jealousy. When something good happens, they are all cheering for each other.
Peterson climbs the ladder and comes up empty. The count is 4. A 3-home run first inning for the Mets against Hill. A 2-home run 6th inning for the Dodgers against Seth Lugo. Now a 3-2 pitch. Peterson goes the other way with a pop-up that will fall out of arm's reach, and it stays full. That kind of year for the Mets. That kind of year for the Dodgers. Lugo home with another 3-2. Peterson reaches out, yanks a liner to center, hangs up for Conforto. 2 out. Forsythe comes up, and it looks like this will be against a new pitcher. Terry Collins coming out. Lugo's day ends after 5 2/3. And he will settle for a no decision in this one. After carrying a no-hitter into the 5th inning, the Dodgers get him for 3 to tie it in the 6th.
Thursday on an all-new Backstage, Dodgers go behind the scenes as the best team in baseball bolsters their pitching staff at the trade deadline, and their prize acquisition doesn't disappoint. Don't miss Backstage Dodgers, presented by Hankook Tire, Thursday after the post-game show on Sportsnet LA.
Couple of changes in a double switch here. Jose Reyes in the game to play second. He'll bat 9. Neil Walker moves from second to first. And the new Mets pitcher is Paul Sewall.
Now, Paul Sewall has worked a couple times this week, once back-to-back. One of the guys that can go multiple innings for them out of the bullpen. They will stretch him.
rides in on Forsythe. He slaps it foul, 1-1. Lugo has to have the same feeling that Hill did in the first inning. Doesn't know what hit him. Happened so quickly.
All the runs in this game on home runs. A whole bunch of solo shots and then Bellinger's 2-run blast. We're starting over.
One and two. Final line. Handed it off to the bullpen, which has been one of the worst in baseball this year. They traded one of their best pieces in Addison Reed. Although they did acquire A.J. Ramos, really good back end guy from the Marlins. Interesting that the Marlins would do that in their division. Neither team in the race. Doesn't affect it right now. Sewald from Las Vegas, Nevada. He played his college ball at San Diego, where he was teammates with Chris Bryant of the Cubs. Here he comes with another 2-2. Forsythe takes it outside. Full count.
Big sweeping slider right there. Not one of those short, hard, tight ones. That one's just a big sweeper. Also throws a changeup.
Forsythe earns the walk. So a 2-out base runner for the Dodgers gives Yasmani Grandal an opportunity.
Even though the score is tied, I think the Dodgers almost feel like they're ahead now, and I think the Mets feel like they're behind. You're playing somebody that has won as many games as the Dodgers have, and you thought you had them down and you could almost step on their neck. All of a sudden they come back to life and you go, oh no, the monster is alive.
All right, here we go again.
Yep.
They're like the video game boss you just can't beat. Big cut, strike one. Dodgers had no hits over the first 4 2/3 of this game before Grandal hooked the double into the right field corner. Feels like a long time ago that they were searching for the first base hit. It's only 1 inning ago, though. Runner at first with 2 out. Grandal chases up, and it's 0-2. I'm going to miss you tomorrow.
Yeah.
ESPN exclusive. Be back together on Tuesday.
We'll see you in Arizona.
Behave. Pop up to left. Cespedes. Inning over.
I tell you, I'm not going to MLB Network like Puig, but I am going to enjoy these home runs. This ties the game. Taylor with 1, and then Bellinger his 31st. Can you believe it?
Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop ChooseNissan.com.
We are tied here in New York, 3-3, after a couple of home runs from Chris Taylor and Cody Bellinger, and taking over for Rich Hill is Brandon Morrow. Brandon Morrow, who has thrown 2 pitches at 101 this year, 17 at 100 miles an hour, and a whole bunch at 99. He has had amazing stuff coming out of the Dodger bullpen.
Facing the left-handed batting Curtis Granderson, and a changeup at 94.
Exactly.
Obviously kidding, but boy, when he's letting it fly, it is something to behold. Cuts down and in and is fouled off 0-2.
That's his 91 mile an hour. He calls it a slider. That one did break like a slider, but he'll throw one that calls a slider but breaks like a curve. And it's still in the 90s.
One and two. Granderson, the third of the 3 solo shots in the first inning against Hill, and a walk, the only walk for New York. Here comes Morrow with a 1-2. Granderson takes it high. Dodgers trying to make it 12 of 13 and 43 of 50. Hasn't been done since 1912. Full count on Granderson. Now Granderson tied with Logan Forsythe for the most pitches per plate appearance of any hitters in baseball. Let's work the full count here. This will be the 7th pitch coming from Morrow. Both those guys average about 4.5 pitches per plate appearance. And he earns the walk. So here's Neil Walker. Just 3 for 24 since coming off of the DL for a hamstring injury. Missed all of July. Back half of June. One of those 3 hits, a first inning single against Hill. Go ahead run aboard in the 6th for the Mets. Fly ball to right. Very short right. Forsythe's got it. 1 out. And up comes Rosario.
What is known as a shutdown inning, and they lead it off with a walk, trying to pitch around that sin. Dodgers climb back in this one, and you just want to come out there and get the offense back in the dugout where they are hot.
Ball 1 on Rosario. No swing, 2-0. So right-handed hitter up there right now. But righties have been better than lefties have by a pretty wide stretch against the right-handed throwing Morrow. Do you foresee a scenario in a big-time game where you would bring Morrow on for a left-hander?
I could see that. I could see he and Pedro Baez and Kenley Jansen all getting that role.
Against left-handers?
Yes, because we don't have a lefty right now that is standing out as this is a shutdown lefty in a left-on-left situation. So I think then you default to a right-hander that has had great success.
They hope Tony Watson could become that guy. 2-1.
And I think in some ways, you know, Tony Watson's role, maybe Grant Dayton's role, maybe Luis Avilan's role might be a little bit more from the 7th inning prior. I think the 8th and 9th are going to be more defaulting to the big arms, 96 mile an hour and above, and that's going to be Kenley with the cutter, Brandon Morrow, Baez right now.
Runner takes off, throw down, not in time. Granderson has moved into scoring position.
Yasmani hasn't had much chance to throw out the Mets in this series. The pitchers have been pretty slow to the plate, the ones on the mound here for the Dodgers. Morrow is not somebody who is 1-3 and below. He's above 1-3-5 most of the time, and that gives a decent runner a very good chance to steal a bag.
That pitch was called a strike, so it's 2-2 on Ahmed Rosario in a tie game in the 6th. All the Mets runs in this series coming off solo homers. Bouncing ball right side. Bellinger's got it. A race to the bag, and Morrow wins it. You knew it was going to be a bang-bang play with Rosario running. Morrow, good athlete himself, beat him there.
Rosario fleet of foot. Brandon Morrow a little late out of the blocks. You see him still now. He finally breaks. The angle of that ball for most pitchers seems like that's to the second baseman, but with the shifting that goes on, a veteran like Morrow, not used to seeing a ball over the course of his career at that angle and knowing he has to go cover.
So Rene Rivera with a go-ahead run at 3rd and 2 out in the 6th inning. A fastball at 97 for a strike. The Mets are 0 for 11 this weekend with runners in scoring position. Granderson started this inning with a walk, stole second, moved to 3rd on the ground out. 1 ball and 1 strike.
And fastballs coming in there from 95 and up. Yasmani Grandal has to stay strong. He's looking for fastballs up as far as the data and where they want the pitches. But if one gets a little away, he's going to have to stay strong with his glove, not let it deflect away. Really concentrate with a man on 3rd.
Coming up with a heater here. 1-2.
See a lot of catchers on those high fastballs kind of cup their glove, take the top of their glove and kind of turn it down so that the ball can't get through it. If you go up with a flat glove or a glove where actually the heel of your glove is out front, the ball can deflect easily.
Morrow strikes him out, even a notch higher on the ladder at 97, and the Mets leave the go-ahead run at 3rd.
best record in the majors, but topped the National League with 6 All-Star selections this year. And now, fans, you can receive an exclusive commemorative photo by purchasing 4 or more tickets to any of the remaining home games. This is a limited offer, and you must purchase your tickets at Dodgers.com/Let'sGoDodgers.
What do you think? You a bratwurst guy?
Yeah, I would leave all. I would go with the spicy mustard. I wouldn't get all the stuff, the onions and
hide the flavor.
peppers. Yeah, spicy mustard and light onions.
Yasiel Puig leading off the 7th in a tie game. He drills a liner to left. Cespedes turns and watches that one. Get out of here! A laser shot. Lightning strikes. Dodgers lead. How did that get out?
A very strong man.
And you know what time it is? Kissy time. Chase Utley pinch hitting, strike 1.
Every ballpark in the 4th or 5th inning has a kiss cam in between innings for the fans. One day, Turner and Yasiel will be on it.
Now Utley sends a fly ball to deep left center field. Cespedes has room for this one.
Yasiel Puig makes the Arco top tier play, and it's a bullet that gets out of here. I don't know how high that ball got up, but not more than about 30-35 feet in the air on a line. Reminds us the home run that Chris Taylor led off the game with yesterday.
You see Bellinger's reaction? What?
You're on the bench and you're ground level and you're kind of leaning against the rail, and you can see the angle when it leaves the bat. You're thinking double off the wall, and that's what the what is.
A ball on Taylor. He's got to go to MLB Network Studios tonight too, right? If it ain't broke.
If he's superstitious.
1-1. So the Dodgers have now hit 22 home runs in 6 games against New York. Taylor flies it to left. Cespedes will camp under this. 2 out. #21 of the season for Yasiel Puig. Previous career high was 19 in his rookie year. And that orange line is the line you're looking for, and it cleared that. A strike on Seager. Oh, and 2. Seager down on strikes, and the inning is over. But Yasiel Puig leads off the inning with a home run, and that means a kiss for Turner Ward. launched 3 home runs to take the lead at 4-3 coming out of the 7th inning stretch. One more game in this series tomorrow night, 5 o'clock Los Angeles time. The Dodgers and Puig hope they're going for the sweep at that point. It'll be up to the bullpen to make that the case. Pedro Baez, who gave up the game-winning home run to Tyler Flowers in Atlanta his last time out, trying to protect the 1-run lead in the 7th.
Nobody on, of course, so the on-base average against PD is .286. He doesn't allow many base runners. And one of the best things he has done all year, only 5% of the hitters he has faced end up scoring. The big league average is 11%.
9-1-2, Jose Reyes, Michael Conforto, and Asdrubal Cabrera. "34 years old in his 15th year in the majors. Started his career here with the Mets, bounced around, and came back to New York last year. Shows bunt, takes a strike. In fact, his arrival in 2003, that was, compared that to kind of the excitement around Rosario's arrival this week. Both shortstops, both from the Dominican Republic. Reyes' debut came a day before he turned 20. Behind 0-2. He spent 9 seasons here the first time around, won a batting title, an All-Star 4 times. Then went to Miami, and Toronto, and Colorado. Suspended until June last year for the offseason domestic violence arrest. So the Rockies didn't want him. And the Mets wound up swooping in to take him. Baez strikes him out on 3 pitches.
Some high cheese. All 3 went right up the ladder, but started up and went even higher.
Now the top of the order. Here's Conforto. One and 0. One ball and 1 strike, 98 letter high. Same result for Conforto that Reyes had, trying to catch up to it. One and 2. Former 10th overall pick out of Oregon State. Debuted in the majors 1 year later and had a huge debut. 3 home runs in the postseason when he was only 22. He struggled last year, but a breakout season this time around. Baez home with a 1-2. Went to the changeup. Conforto took it. Going up with a 2-2.
You mentioned about Brandon Morrow. Do we foresee right-handers coming in to face lefties? So Brandon Morrow, 030. Lefties hitting off of him. Pedro Baez, 197. Kenley Jansen, 218. But there are some lefties. Avilan at 185. Grant Dayton, 171.
Got in on him. It'll pop up on the right side. Forsythe for out number 2. And when you're looking at that lefty on lefty matchup, trying to get the one key out in the late innings, it won't be Jansen, so you can eliminate him from the equation. But you have a pretty good pool of guys to choose from, even though you don't have that Andrew Miller necessarily. Don't have Zach Britton like a lot of teams wanted to get. Orioles ultimately didn't want to make available at the deadline. But the Dodgers are hoping between now and the postseason, one of those guys steps out of that group and kind of emerges.
And the nice thing about having a group is you got a lot of chances. And if the portion of that fold is in the bullpen in the playoffs, you might be able to go for the particular matchup. The lefty that has trouble with the high fastball, you might choose somebody. The lefty that has trouble with the changeup, you might choose somebody. The lefty that has trouble with a slider low and away, and it doesn't have to be a big slider. Just anything with spin might be a different component.
Yeah, so for a postseason roster, you have to reset your roster, or not reset, but it has to be set to start a series. You may carry somebody specifically for, say, Bryce Harper. Or you may carry somebody specifically for Anthony Rizzo.
Exactly.
Quickly 0-2. So, for example, Bryce Harper is 0 for 6 against Tony Watson. We'll have a chance to see how they match up in September to add to that data. Anthony Rizzo 4 for 20 against Watson. It's not completely shutting him down, but it's not good. It's a 200 average. One ball and 2 strikes. And there is Tony Watson. Baez looking for a 1-2-3 7th. He's got it. Forsythe catches the line drive from Cabrera. Through his 7th, the Dodgers in front. Dodgers baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by BMW. See a Southern California BMW Center today for exceptional offers, or visit SoCalBMW.com.
Dodgers have been down most of the day, but now up 4-3 after a blooper by Turner in his last at bat. And then, of course, the big home run that put them on top, that tied it up, was Bellinger's, and then put him on top with Puig's home run.
Turner leading off this 8th, took a ball. Now hammers one to straightaway center. Back goes Conforto. Justin Turner gets it out of here. A 4th Dodger home run. The lead is 5-3. How much fun is this?
Sometimes rallies are consisted of bloops and blasts. Well, that's what Justin Turner has done in his last 2 at-bats. A little bloop to center, and then one that's about 3 times as far over that center field wall.
That chases Paul Sewall from the game. Justin Turner hits his 12th home run of the season. The Dodgers have banged their way back and lead it by 2. And he's been kind of an outlier in the bullpen, and that he's been good this year.
We'll bring him in right here to face Cody Bellinger, and trying to keep the Dodgers in check, which has been really hard to do since the 6th inning.
Cody Bellinger, he has one of the 4 home runs over the last 3 innings for the Dodgers. His tied it at 3. We gave him a 4-3 lead. Turner just extended it to 5-3. It was his 31st of the year. Now 4 shy of the Dodger rookie record. Levens gives him strike 1. Got a pretty good feeling he's going to get it.
Yeah, we've been talking about pace a lot with the whole team. I think his pace is pretty good individually.
0-2.
September's going to be a fun month because there's going to be a lot of things that the team is chasing and Cody's chasing, some individual things throughout the roster. Justin Turner will probably be chasing a batting title. Chris Taylor might even throw his name in that hat.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of fun little things like that. 100 wins. Franchise record wins.
I think we can just look past 100 wins.
Yeah,
we'll be going to the next number,
which would be 105 for the franchise record to tie it. 1953. Bellinger offered, but the ball gets by. And of course, another thing goes the Dodgers' way. They're living a charmed life right now.
Terry Reynolds makes the nice move, brings the lefty in to face the tough left-handed hitter, gets the strikeout, just can't get the ball caught.
Kike Hernandez pinch hitting against the left-handed reliever. Left-handers or right-handers hitting above 300 against Jerry Blevins. That's ball one. $40,000 in attendance today. Really beautiful day. And one more in the series coming tomorrow. Strike one. Two and one. That catches the bottom of the zone, and it's 2-2. Fly ball to short center field. Jose Reyes caught off by Granderson for the first out.
Add to your Dodger gear collection on Wednesday, August 16th, when the Dodgers host the White Sox. The first 40,000 fans in attendance will receive a pair of LA branded socks presented by New Balance. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions.
One on, one out. Here's Forsythe. Ball one. Now Blevins is a guy who most expected had a good chance to be on the move at the trade deadline. Does have a team option for next year, and again it kind of goes back to the Mets thinking that they are healthy starting pitching away from being a contender again next year. They very well may be. It's just that's a big if. Those guys are going to be healthy.
Yeah, Wheeler, Syndergaard, Harvey. We'll see.
DeGrom right there, who pitched last night, is the only guy in the rotation that's made every start this year. Two and one. Bellinger takes off. Perfect throw from Rene Rivera to nail it. And he wants Dave Roberts to take a look.
A nice read, doesn't get away very far, and the momentum, because the ball's out front, takes him right there, and it does look like they clip Cody's foot. A nice jump. We'll see, the foot's going to the back side of the bag, and does the glove with Reyes get him? Fans here in the stadium watching the replay up on the big screen think that it's an out. Oh wow, that looks safe right there.
Great shot.
Yeah. Olay. Not sure they get him there. I think he is safe.
Bellinger seemed like he was certain when he got into the bag that he was in there. And he was right. So he's in scoring position. And just one out. An opportunity to add on for Forsythe and the Dodgers here in the 8th.
It's like you talked about earlier in the game. It's not a given when the ball beats the runner. You've got to really make sure you get the leather on him. Replay will catch you.
Levin's home 2-1. Forsythe takes ball 3. Are you happy with where replay is at as far as what you can look at and what you can't? Should it expand?
I always like it to expand as long as we can do it quickly. I think getting it right is the ultimate goal, and I think the players want that. I think the fans want that.
Forsythe walks for the second time today, and they're at first and second. Where do you stand on the electronic strike zone?
I like the umpire being back there. I would like to see him raise his hand, not just see a light on the scoreboard, but I wouldn't mind experimenting with electronic ball strike and having something vibrate or something on the umpire's hip that on the borderline calls, if he needs a little help, that's right there for him. Be good if you could personalize it to every batter's stance when their front foot and the bat is about to be launched, because the strike zone on the hitter supposedly changes, you know, from the, think about Cody Bellinger from when he starts real tall, and then as he goes to swing the bat, that's his strike zone.
I think the buzzer idea is really good for everybody except the umpires are going to hate the thought of that. How mundane is that work to go stand back there and just put your hand up when you feel a buzz?
Yeah. You still got to call the game at, you know, in the balk, and they've got to call the fair foul before the ball reaches first base or third base. They've got to call the play at the plate.
Ball one on Grandal.
The guys on the bases pretty much are doing that. They're out there just kind of leaning on their knees, watching the game and waiting for something to happen in their area. And, you know, the umpire at the home plate would just have to raise his arm or not raise his arm. They could come up with some really extravagant strike calls now that they don't have to concentrate. Be like some of those cool athletic handshakes after big shots and big home runs.
There's some that border on it.
Yeah.
The strike three calls. 2-1.
Could you actually get to a point where you don't need umpires at all?
I hope not.
I would think you can't, but could you really? You know, thing could get wired completely. Could have sensors in guys' shoes and hands, and you could have sensors in the gloves and the ball, and knowing whether there's a tag, and sensors in the bases.
Where is the call then?
Registers
relay?
up electronically onto the board. You know, with everybody watching the game, and then you look up at the board if it's out or safe, or maybe the outfield wall kind of lights up red if the guy was out, or the outfield wall lights up green if he's safe. You know, I don't know. But I'm sure you could do it.
Nothing too drastic. Just
get rid of 4 guys.
Aliens and
yeah. I would not like that.
No, I know you're.
But I'm just saying, you know, let your mind stretch as far as you want.
First and second with 1 out in the 8th inning. Blevins with a 2-2, and Grandal taps it foul. It would definitely change the sensory experience of coming to a game.
Yeah.
You know, of sitting back and having a pop and a hot dog, chilling, talking with your friends when you're looking for the wall to light up for safer out. Sounds like arena baseball.
Exactly.
Grandal down on strikes. 2 gone.
Now we're back to dodgeball.
Right. Hey, by the way,
yeah.
Did you see that on August 8th, ESPN is turning ESPNU into ESPN the Ocho?
Oh,
and
really?
They're showing a bunch of alternative sports like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did I see last night? I saw, what do they do? What's that called when they throw the sandbags into the...
Cornhole.
Yeah, cornhole. I saw a cornhole championship. It was on TV.
I hear it rates well, too. Swear to God.
Yeah. No, it was really interesting to hear the strategy from the commentators, and blocking bags and bags that you're going to try and airmail in there to grab one of your other bags and knock it into the hole. Or it was fun. The guy won $20,000. Wow. He won the championship.
Who knew? The double switch coming here in a 5-3 game in the 8th. With runners at first and second and 2 out, and a 5-3 game with the Dodgers in front. And Yasiel Puig coming up with a home run in both games in this series. He hit number 20 last night. A high arcing drive. It was a no-doubt shot. But today, the one that broke the 3-3 tie, a bullet that just barely crept over the wall.
Yasiel hit it hard, and then he realized it was on a line, might hit the wall, and took off out of the box. And of course, a very aggressive kiss for Turner Ward.
You'd almost rather go back to getting punched now because he's almost just punching him with his lips.
It's almost like bone on bone.
One and one. We got this one off the end of the bat some, and in right, Curtis Granderson to put an end to the Dodger 8. A 5-3 lead to the bottom half.
Coming up next, Access Sportsnet Dodgers, brought to you by your Southern California Nissan dealers. John Hartung, Nomar Garcia-Parra. Talk about this one. Rich Hill's interesting outing. And Nomar Garcia-Parra must be giving Moses from the studio hitting tips because he's getting the smooches as well as the Dodgers try to lock this one down, guys.
It's the new thing, Alana. Don't get any ideas, Hershiser.
I am not going to get any ideas.
5-3, bottom of the 8th inning. Kike Hernandez stays in and plays center. Yoenis Cespedes to lead off. Austin Barnes, the new battery mate. Dodgers have done a good job on Cespedes this weekend. He's 1 for 6, only with a single. Most lineups have a guy or two that you mark very clearly. This is one of those guys in this order. Inside 1-1.
Pedro going out there for the second inning, get to extend a little bit and stretch out. This is where the 2 off-speed pitches that have really gotten a lot better can help out. You're not out there just pounding the fastball. You got the slider and the changeup.
Here comes a 2-1, and Cespedes hits it foul. The count evens at 2-2. Tony Watson been up a couple of times. With Flores on deck. Brandon Nimmo on deck after the double switch. Yeah, then Granderson due after that. Mets led this game 3-0 after an inning. 3 solo home runs against Rich Hill, but the Dodgers have battled back to take the lead. Cespedes hits an opposite field fly ball that will reach the seats. Dodgers have done it with a long ball as well. Taylor, Bellinger, Puig, and Turner all with home runs. Trying to reach 43-7 over their last 50 games. Into the best 50-game run in franchise history, the best in baseball since 1912. Baez to Cespedes with a 2-2 again. Slider is outside and the count is 4.
They've kept the ball away from Cespedes this whole series, making him try and hit the ball to right field. He's going to hit for himself and just only try to pull. It's going to be awfully hard. Fastballs away, sliders away. Here they're coming in.
Up and in. Ball 4. The tying run will come to the plate.
Coming in for a strike. His ball just gets away from him, trying to throw it as hard as he can. I did not think there was any malice in that pitch.
Dave Roberts going to make the change after the leadoff man reaches. He'll call on Tony Watson with a tying run at the plate. High leverage situation for the new Dodger. debut Tuesday in Atlanta with a scoreless inning. And now on to face the tying run in the 8th inning here in New York.
We threw 9 pitches in that inning, gave up a little scratch single, but that was it. Fastball, slider, changeup, but like Luis Avilan, another lefty in the Dodger pen, of course, number 1 pitch really off the fastball is the changeup. Avilan trying to throw a few more curveballs to get better at that, and I'm sure that Tony Watson will try and incorporate the slider a little bit more now with the role that they are looking for here in Dodger blue.
We were talking about it earlier when Brandon Morrow was pitching. Morrow has shut down left-handers, and you could see him being used to do that unless somebody else can step into that role. Watson, one of the leading candidates. Brandon Nimmo back and forth between here and the minors this year. Checks his swing and a strike. And while Watson's numbers against left-handers this year not great, in his career lefties are only hitting .216. Didn't miss by much. 1-1.
He has that low 3/4 action, so that should give the lefties a little bit of an issue. Pitches from the first base side of the rubber. Give him a little bit more angle.
Nice pitch. 1-2. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah, that was gorgeous right there. That looks like a nice solid fastball, then breaks to the outside corner. And that's a good slider for a swing and miss or a called strike.
The 1-2. Try to come front door. 2-2.
Rick Honeycutt was a starting pitcher most of his career, but then came into the bullpen as a set-up left-hander and a left-on-left specialist, so he'll be able to help these guys that the Dodgers have acquired.
Barely got a piece. Dylan Hernandez wrote a really good piece. I don't know if you saw that, about the parallels between the Dodgers acquisition of Yu Darvish and of Rick Honeycutt in 1983. Both over midseason from Texas, and both began their time with the Dodgers with 7 shutout innings and a 6-0 win against a National League East team. It's crazy. Honeycutt's came against the Phillies. Darvish obviously last night here.
Rick was new to the Dodgers, but he was one of the veterans that broke me in. It was a September call-up in 1983. Made the playoff roster after Steve Howe was suspended. And then in '84, we became catch buddies.
Full count.
Every day working on pitching, playing catch together, and I learned an awful lot from him. And to this day, we are golf buddies.
Tying run at the plate. Nobody out in the 8th inning. Watson home with a payoff. Struck him out on the outside corner with a fastball.
Outstanding pitch all by itself, but in relation to the sliders that he threw earlier, that is a deadly pitch.
Now another test against another left-handed hitter, Curtis Granderson, who has reached all 3 times today. 2 walks and a home run against the left-handed Rich Hill. Cespedes at first with 1 out. Here comes Watson. Slider to the bottom of the zone, strike 1. Couple of veterans going at it here. 32-year-old Watson against the 36-year-old Granderson. 0-2. Oh, did miss by much.
Not where you want it. You don't want to hang it on the inside there and end up giving a home run up down the right field line. You're trying to really get that way low and away.
Quite a reaction from Granderson.
I think he called himself out.
Got him here. Back-to-back Ks out of the bullpen for Watson.
That one with a slider, the last one with a fastball on the black. Both very effective using the outer part of the plate to these lefties.
And now it's a righty. First one that he sees, Neil Walker. A 5-3 game with 2 out in the 8th inning. A win would be a 12th out of their last 13. And a 43rd out of their last 50. Walker takes strike 1. 9 homers this year for him. Gently hit. Barnes has it. Tony Watson shuts it down out of the bullpen. On to the 9th we go with the Dodgers in front 5-3. Home runs for the Dodgers in this one, and now 22 in the 6 games against New York. They've used those homers to erase a 3-0 deficit and take a 5-3 lead into the 9th inning. Kyle Farmer takes ball 1, pinch hitting to open this inning. Looking ahead to the bottom of the 9th, bottom of the order for the Mets, although they have Jay Bruce available off their bench today. 1-1 on Farmer. Farmer looking for his first hit since that memorable one on Sunday night. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Here to be the big fella in the bottom of the 9th. Saw Alex Rodriguez in the hall between innings. He's doing the game for FS1 today, right after the Dodgers had taken the lead, and he said, "This is unbelievable." And I said, "Yeah, this is kind of what they do."
Ho hum.
Right. And you never want to let it become that, because it is so special. But it's kind of funny to joke around that it is ho hum because they do it so frequently. Good take, full count.
It's been a pleasure to get to know this young man in spring training and now here in the big leagues. Just a quality individual that he deserves to be up here.
Stays alive, 3-2 still. Enjoyed listening to Alana visit with his parents in Atlanta Tuesday night.
Not only the baseball qualities of the guys coming out of the minor leagues for the Dodgers, but the character of the guys.
Farmer shoots a line drive, base hit to right.
Little resemblance to that exciting hit that he had in his first at bat, the double that scored the winning runs, and then he got his jersey ripped off him.
He's over there at first wondering why they're not emptying the dugout to congratulate him on this one. Yeah. That's just what happens when you get hits in the bigs. Trying to add on now. Top of the order, Chris Taylor. Strokes one to right. On comes Granderson. He'll play it on a bounce. His throw to second gets Farmer, who was caught between a rock and a hard place on that one.
Really was a tough read, and it's a split-second decision. Watch Farm right here, and a little bit of weaving by Granderson might have thrown him off. Looking like he had it easy as he was pulling up, but he was pulling up not because he was catching it, he was pulling up because he was going to let it bounce.
Well, Seager, after back-to-back 3-hit games, 0 for 3 in this one. Talked about it a little bit off of the top, but when you look at the company this Dodger team is in, even before there's a result in this one with a 42-7 run, they're in a league of their own over the last century. Only team in the last 105 years to win 42 of 49. Not just the only Dodger team, the only team in baseball. Only 2 others since 1900. The Cubs in 1906. The Giants in 1912. And the other 2 organizations, that was the Cubs organization that did it in 1885. They were then known as the White Stockings. So when you see the Chicago White Stockings in the 1800s, they didn't become the White Sox. Eventually became the Cubs. 2-1 on Seager. They were next the Colts. And then when their longtime player manager Cap Anson was let go, the next year they started calling them the Orphans. So they're the Orphans for a few years, then had a particularly young team, and the sports writers tabbed them Cubs. Salas with a 2-1, and Seager flexes it foul. 2-2. A pop-up. Rivera watches it go into the seats.
You know, emotionally for me, Corey Seager was almost in a league of his own. Like when he had an 0 for going, 0 for 7, I never really worried that he wasn't going to come out of it. I don't think he's in a league of his own now. I think that way about Justin Turner. I think that way about Chris Taylor. And now even Cody Bellinger. That the consistency and just the emotional stability of these guys and their approach and the way they come up there, and even when they're in a slump, you just feel like you're glad they're at the plate.
You're putting those guys in Seager's company.
Yes.
Not that he's fallen out.
No.
Yeah.
I'm putting them right in there. Justin Turner now has done it over a long enough period of time. Chris Taylor for me, and Cody Bellinger's right on the edge of it.
That ball is absolutely punished into the second deck. The homer-happy Dodgers strike again, and it's 7-3.
Corey Seager had nothing on the day until this swing. And that might be one of his longest of the year. And maybe his career, if the stands wouldn't have gotten away.
A strike on Turner. A 5-home run day for the Dodgers. And suddenly, the fact that they were hitless over 4 2/3 seems like weeks ago.
I think in the scrum today, Dave Roberts described Corey Seager as Chase Utley 2.0. That's the way Chase Utley was in his prime. 300 hitter with home run power. Come get you at any time.
I think Alana actually came up with that today, and he agreed with it.
Oh, great. Now, I was reading in the notes. I wasn't present in the scrum.
Point taken, though. The same guy. Turner to the opposite field. Granderson back onto the track. Makes the catch and then crashes into that wall. 2 out. Well, Turner didn't miss that one by much. Home run for Seager was his 19th. Kenley Jansen can sit down. Ross Stripling looks like will handle the 9th inning for the Dodgers. With 2 outs, Bellinger. It is 31st today. That tied it in the 6th. They've had 3 more home runs since then. Two and out. They were 2 below 500 when Cody Bellinger was called up. They're now 3 outs away from moving to 46 games above 500. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Bellinger shoots it the other way. Cespedes will run it down, and the inning is over. Seager unloads on one, his 19th of the season, and the Dodgers have a comfortable lead to the bottom of the ninth. Display of the game. Yasiel Puig's tie-breaking solo shot. It went from down 3-0 to up 4-3. Taylor and Bellinger homered. Then Puig hit that one and then hit that one. That was in the 7th inning. They've added home runs from Turner and Seager since. And instead of Kenley Jansen, it's Ross Stripling.
All these wins the Dodgers get, Kenley Jansen is still 2nd in the league in saves because he doesn't get as many opportunities because of this fantastic offense. So Ross Stripling will clean up the 9th inning for the Dodgers, but Kenley is there just to back him up just in case.
Ahmed Rosario with perhaps his final opportunity to extend his career opening hitting streak, which is at 4 games. Oh, 0-2. Series finale tomorrow, and again it is ESPN only. 5:05 in LA. Hyun-Jin Ryu for the Dodgers. Pitched on Sunday Night Baseball last week. 7 shutout innings against the Giants. Trying to build off that. Steven Matz counters for New York. Got him swinging with a curve. 1 out.
How many teams would like to have Ryu or Maeda near the top of their rotation? Those guys are battling for spots to show really strong in August and September to maybe get the start in the playoffs. Crazy how good the rotation is.
When they're doing all of this right now, this will be 12 wins out of 13 without Kershaw.
Make you scratch your head, make you shake your head, but enjoy the ride.
Makes your eyes light up thinking about when he comes back.
Exactly. Still leading the National League in wins, even though he's been on the DL. Having an absolutely magnificent year. Still got a chance for the Cy Young, depending on when he comes back.
I was having this conversation with somebody this weekend. If they wind up ultimately saying that Kershaw missed too much time to be a slam dunk winner, we don't know the severity of Scherzer's situation. Looks like he should be fine, having that shoulder tighten up. But if by chance he were to miss similar time to Kershaw, does Alex Wood then move towards the front of that conversation?
He could, and you also might start to look to the bullpen. There have been years when a guy out of the pen could win the Cy Young. Mark Davis won it out of San Diego during my day. I think Steve Bedrosian won it as a reliever. That's when it kind of defaults over to the bullpen getting a really deep look.
I can think of a guy. 2-2.
Kenley?
Yeah.
For sure. It'll be interesting and it'll be controversial.
High fly ball, deep left field. Rene Rivera, a solo home run. So 11 runs in this game, all off homers. 9 total.
It's been a clear, beautiful day, and it's been a great day to hit the long ball. Wind here in New York, 15-20 miles an hour. You don't see it on the field, but it's up there in the sky near the second deck.
One out, Reyes. Foul and strike one. Now back to Kershaw in the Cy Young discussion. If he were to come back after missing about a month, so if he pitches, and again there still is no timetable, but say he makes a handful of starts in September, just conservatively speaking, still winds up making 25 starts. Say he wins 2 or 3 of them. You're still looking at 17 or 18 wins. To bounce at his second, Forsythe throws Reyes out, and the Mets down to their final out. And right or not, voters still really weigh wins heavily.
I think he's definitely one of the Cy Young candidates no matter what happens. I think he'll finish probably in the top 5 no matter what, depending on when he comes back. But if the resume is expanded in 2017 with another 4 wins, another 3 wins, he's going to be right there in the top 3, and he might win it.
If WAR is your thing, he's 3rd among pitchers in National League WAR, behind Scherzer and Gio Gonzalez. Travis d'Arnaud, strike one, and that's a cumulative thing, so that's something he'll lose ground on while he sits out and continue to add to once he comes back.
Fans are probably thinking, well, where is he in his rehab? Well, he's not on the mound yet, but he's throwing and feels really good.
0-2.
And I'm really glad they haven't given a timetable for him or for the team. Just keep it internal. There's so much going on when it comes to Clayton Kershaw news. Just keep it quiet.
Opposite field line drive. Puig's got it. And the Dodgers have won another. A 43-7 50-game stretch. The best since 1912.
They win another series no matter what happens tomorrow. And today was a home run derby that they decided to win also.
They cranked 5 of them. Puig hit 1. Taylor hit 1. Bellinger hit 1. Turner. Seager. What a ride. Series finale is tomorrow. That'll be on ESPN. We'll be back with you Tuesday night from Phoenix. For Oral, Alana, and the rest of our crew, Joe Davis saying so long from New York City. Where the Dodgers take the second one from New York. Access Sportsnet, brought to you by your Southern California Nissan dealers, begins now.